go ahead and get started on the Algebra 1 Midterm Study Guide Review Part B. Starting off with question 1, it is slope, and we're going to figure out the slope of this line. Lucky for us, they give us two nice points to go off of, so we have a 0, 1 and a 7, 5. So whenever we're given a graph and it looks like our x and y axis are only going up one at a time, this looks like a good one for us to count. So we can draw our little triangle up and over to form a nice right triangle here from our points, and it looks like we're going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. So that is up 4. And then we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over 7. So if our slope is rise over run, and our rise is up 4, and our run is over 7, that means we'll get a nice 4 over 7 for our slope. So that is the answer to number 1. Scrolling on down, we have another slope problem. We can do the same thing. We can actually just count the spaces if we wish. And again, be careful of the scale of our x and y. So it looks like both x and y are, each box is worth 1. So if we draw our triangle, we're going down and over, it looks like we're going from 0 to -3, so -3, and then -6 to -3, which is just +3. So again, rise over run, our slope would be -3 over 3, which you always want to write your slope in the simplest form as possible, which is -1. So our slope is -1. All right, we've got even more slope here. As you can see, a lot of that is in midterm review part B. This time we're going to figure out the slope of a line through a given table. So we're given a lot of points here. We can pick whichever sets we want. So I usually just pick the first and second. So let us label. Well, first, before we label, actually, I'll tell you what I'm labeling, and that is another way to do slope, besides just rise over run. How we know what rise over run is we break it into this formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So now that we know that we're using two y's and two x's, I'm going to label them over here. So this one will be our x1, this will be x2, this will be y1, and that will be y2. Just because our x2 and y2 are paired together, x1 and y1 are paired together, and that is what's important. You don't want to mix any of those up. So our y2, the one that I labeled, is 22 minus y1, which is 29, divided by 0 minus a -5. So you see, in our formula, we have a negative, but our x1 also has a negative sign in it. So we need to make sure that we include both of those negatives. So let us do 22 minus 29. That is a -7. And 0 minus a -5 turns into a +5 because these two negatives cancel and they turn into a positive. So that turns into a positive sign. So our slope is going to be -7 over 5. Another slope question, what is the slope of the line? And we've got points that are on this line. So once again, let us label x1, y1, x2, and y2. So our slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is equal to 23 minus 14 over 8 minus 4. So 23 minus 14 is going to be a 9. 8 minus 4 is a 4. So our slope will end up being 9/4. Typically, you're either going to keep it in fraction, its most simplified fraction form, or in a decimal, but mostly with slope, we tend to just keep it in that fraction form. All right, for 5, find the slope of a line that passes through these 2 points. So instead of getting a table, we're just given points, but we still do the same type of thing where we're going to do our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 formula. So I always like to label, this will be our x1 and our y1, x2 and y2. So y2 is 37, y1 is 13, over, we have a 15 as our x2 and a 14 as our x1. So 37 minus 13 is going to be 24. 15 minus 14 is 1. So simplifying that, our slope will be 24. We're once again doing slope through 2 points. So using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, labeling them x1 and y1, x2 and y2. Labeling it is always going to be a good idea just so that you don't accidentally switch up our x1 with x2, y1 with y2, vice versa. You always want to make sure that your x1 and y1 are from that same pair. So our y2 looks like it is a negative 52, minus y1 is a negative 16. So we've got a lot of negatives here. So 40 is our x2, minus 39 is our x1. So negative 52 minus a negative 16, that minus turns into a plus. So we actually have negative 52 plus 16 here, which will work itself out to be a negative 36, divided by 40 minus 39 is a nice even 1. So simplifying that down, we get a slope of negative 36. And then another line passes through these 2 points, but this time it says write its equation in slope-intercept form. So instead of just finding the slope, we're going to write an equation. So slope-intercept form is our y equals mx plus b form, where m is our slope and b is our y-intercept, hence the name slope-intercept form. So let me finish writing that out. In order for us to even figure out what this is, first we're going to do the thing where we solve for slope, since m is a part of our equation and we have 2 points. So let's find the equation of this line by finding the slope first. So we do our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And again, let's label it so we don't mix anything up here. So x2, y2, all right. y2 is 0 minus a 3 over 2 minus a negative 3. So let's see, we got a negative 3 over 2 minus negative 3 will end up being a positive 5. So that is going to be the slope of our line. And our y-intercept, we don't know that yet. We're just given 2 points, and none of these seem to be our y-intercept, so let's go ahead and figure that out. How do we figure that out? Well, we know slope, we know points, which means we can plug that into our point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then we're going to plug in some points. So I'm choosing to plug in points from this one here, our 2, 0. You can plug them in from whichever one you want, but I am just choosing this one since it has a 0 in it. So y minus 0 is equal to negative 3 over 5 times x minus 2. And then from here, we are going to solve for y, which should then get us into our slope-intercept form, just like the problem is asking. So in order for us to solve for y from here, we are going to distribute this negative 3 over 5 into the x and into this negative 2. So I'm going to bring down this y. In fact, it's just y minus 0, so we don't even need to do anything with this 0. Let's just get rid of it. So now it's y equals negative 3 over 5 x, and then we have a negative 3 over 5 times a negative 2. So whenever you work that out, that will be plus, because we have two negatives, a 6 over 5. So this right here, our final answer, y equals negative 3 over 5x plus 6 over 5, is our equation in slope-intercept form. Alrighty. And now we're going to go on to question number 8, which is asking to write an equation in slope-intercept form given a slope of 1 over 7 and a point of 8, 1. So this time we don't have to find the slope. They gave it to us. So our slope is 1 over 7. And again, our y-intercept, we don't know that. But we're given a slope, we're given a point. So let us put it into point slope, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So plugging our points in, we have y minus y1, which is just a 1, equals 1 over 7 times x minus 8. And also, as a reminder, slope-intercept form is our y equals mx plus b. So this that we just put in here is not going to be what you want the answer to be in. It's just what we have to use to get our answer. So as always, we distribute this 1/7 into that x and into that negative 8. So let's bring down our y minus 1, and then we'll get a 1 over 7 times x, which is 1/7 x. And we have a 1 over 7 times a negative 8, and this will be a negative 8 over 7. So now let us add this 1 to both sides, since our goal is to get y all by itself over there. So this negative 1 and that positive 1 will cancel, so we will get y equals 1/7 x, and then a negative 8 over 7 plus 1 will be a negative 1 over 7. And that is our answer. Moving along to 9, we now have a graph, and we're going to write the equation of this line in slope-intercept form. So we want our equation to look like y equals mx plus b. So how do we do that? So our b is our y-intercept. And if we look at our graph, it looks like this right here that I'm pointing to is where our line intercepts the y-axis. So this value right here is going to be our b. Our b seems to be 30. So our y-intercept is 30. And now all that's left for us to do is to find the slope. So we find the slope by looking at our line and picking out 2 points that our line is intersecting nicely at. What I mean by nicely, I mean like you see right here where I have my mouse, how it's perfectly aligning with the grid on the graph. Right there, I'm going to pick one point, and it looks like right here at our y-intercept is another good point. So now from there, we can take our graph, draw our triangle, and see what these values are. So from 30 to 10, we have a negative 20. And then from 0 to 30, we have a positive 30. So our m is going to be equal negative 20 over 30, because rise over run, which will simplify down to a negative 2 over 3. Right, now that we know that our slope is negative 2 over 3 and our y-intercept is 30, we can plug all of that into our equation. Y equals m, which is negative 2 over 3, x plus b, which is a positive 30. And that is our answer to number 9. So let's scroll down to number 10. Write the equation of this line in slope-intercept form once again. So pointing out this right here, that's the first thing we're going to look at is our y-intercept, since we are able to see it. Looks like our y-intercept is 14. And then let's find our slope. So I'm going to grab 2 points on our graph. Let's see, we'll do here and here. I'm going to draw a nice triangle and count. So this right here is 6. This point here is 10. So it looks like we're going up 4. And then from negative 12 to negative 6 is a positive 6. So that means our slope m is equal to 4 over 6, which can simplify down one more time into 2 over 3. So putting all of that together, we have y equals 2 over 3x plus 14. And that is our answer to number 10. Let's see. So now we have a line that includes the points 3, 6, and 10, 3. What is its equation in point slope form? Point slope. So be careful with the wording of our questions, because you see this question looks really similar to a lot of the other ones on the test, but the only difference is what it's asking here. Point slope form. Point slope is our y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we're going to want to figure out how to write an equation in point slope form. So we're given 2 points. So we have a point, but we do not have a slope. But since we have 2 points, we can find a slope by doing our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So again, labeling x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's do 3 minus 6 over 10 minus 3. So we have a negative 3 over 7 as our slope. And then picking a point, we can pick whichever one we want. This time, let's pick this 3, 6 here. And then I'm going to write our equation here. So we have y minus y1, which is going to be 6, is equal to negative 3 over 7 times x minus x1, which is 3. So you also could have written your equation using the other set of points here, this 10, 3. In fact, actually, I'm going to underline this one in black, and then I'm going to write that next equation in red here so you can see the difference. This y minus 3 equals negative 3 over 7 times x minus 10. This would also be a valid answer to this question. Again, if it's multiple choice, it will just have one correct answer. I will not show you both. So yeah, either one of these are an acceptable answer to number 11. Let's scroll down to give ourselves a little bit more room for number 12. A line that includes the point negative 7, 10 has a slope of negative 5 over 8. What is its equation in point slope form? So once again, our y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 form. So this time we're given a point and a slope. So looks like we're just able to plug it in without having to solve for anything. So let's do that. Y minus y1, which happens to be 10, equals negative 5 over 8 times x minus x1, which that's a negative 7. x1 is a negative 7. So instead of writing it like this, that negative 7 is going to cancel out because we have two negatives. So y minus 10 is equal to negative 5 over 8 x plus 7. Or if you just recall the rule of just opposite points here, you would know that this one would be a plus 7. But if not, just be careful with plugging that in, and then you'll see that it'll cancel out. So our answer for this problem, number 12, is y minus 10 equals negative 5 over 8 times x plus 7. All right, 13. This time we get a graph again. Looking at our graph, what is the equation of the line in point slope form? So I see a little red dot here already. Let's identify this point that they're giving us. So we're going to go over and up and see what our x value is. So looking at our x value, it looks like that'll be 3, comma, and then it looks like we're up by 5. So that point that they give us is 3, comma 5. And now all that's left is to find slope. So let's find another point where it intersects, which I would say that intersects right there. And drawing a tiny triangle, looks like we go up 1 from 4 to 5, and then from negative 1 to a 3 is a 4. So it looks like our slope, rise over run, is 1/4. So putting all of that together, we have y minus 5 equals 1/4 times x minus 3. And that is the answer to 13. 14. Asking the same thing. What is the equation of this line that is shown in point slope form? So identifying our point once again, it looks like this is negative 2, negative 7. So negative 2, comma, negative 7. Just a reminder, this is always x, comma, y. All right, that's the format that we're using for our points. So let us now find the slope of this line. It looks like we're going down 1, so minus 1, and over, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down 1 over 5. As a reminder, I'm able to count these boxes because looking at this graph, it looks like each box represents 1. So this would be 1, that's 2, this is 3, that's 4. That's why I'm able to count the boxes. So our slope, m, is equal to negative 1 over 5. So putting together our point and our slope, we're going to get y minus y1, but we have negatives here. So this is going to be y plus 7 is equal to negative 1 over 5 times x plus 2. So that right there is our equation of the line. 15. Graph this line using our intercepts. So let's rewrite our equation over here. So 20x plus 30y is equal to 600. Using intercepts specifically. So this is where we are going to take either x or y, plug in 0, and solve for the other. So to solve for our y-intercept, so I'm going to write that here. Our y-intercept, we are going to plug 0 in to x and solve for y. Solve for y. So 20 times 0 plus 30y is equal to 600. So we have a 30y is equal to 600, which means when we divide by 30, we'll get y is equal to 20. And then to get our x-intercept, so x-intercept, we plug in 0 to y, and then solve for x. So this time we have a 20y, I'm at 20x. Here, let me erase that. 20x minus 30 times 0 is equal to 600. So 20x equals 600. Divide both sides by 20. And then we are going to get x is equal to 30. So using our y equals 20 and x equals 30, what you do is you just put a dot right where it says. So y equals 20, we're going to look at y, put a little dot at 20. X equals 30, look at our x values, put a little dot there at x, and then we are going to draw a line as straight as we can through those 2 points, and that will be what the graph of this line is. A line has a slope of 9 and a y-intercept of -1/4. Let's write its equation in slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. So we have a slope and a y-intercept. So y equals 9x plus b, which if our b, y-intercept, is -1/4, that'll be -1/4. And that's it. We're just plugging in what they tell us. So nice and simple for number 16. Scrolling down to both 17 and 18, if a line has a slope of 1/2, so this time I'll label it. So 1/2 equals m, and our y-intercept of -3/2, b equals -3/2. Write its equation in slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b means y equals 1/2 x minus 3/2 is our answer. So there's that. And then moving to 18, a line has a slope of 7, so m equals 7, y-intercept b of -1, and we're going to write it once more in slope-intercept form. So y equals 7x minus 1, which again, we got that from plugging in 7 for m and -1 for our plus b. The reason why R1 is not positive is because it's a -1 here, and negatives will replace that positive in our formula there. So that's 18. Scroll down to 19. We've got line has a slope of 7 and a y-intercept of -6. Write it in slope-intercept form. So y equals 7x minus 6. This one's just following that same format as the previous few. So that's what we do. So again, m equals 7, b equals -6, with our y equals mx plus b. All right, moving on to 20. If line T passes through points 10, 10 and 2, 1, and line U passes through points 9, 10 and 1, 1, are line T and line U parallel or perpendicular, or it gives us a neither option. So first, let's remind ourselves what parallel and perpendicular line means. If a line is parallel, that means we have the same slope. That's what parallel would mean. Let's see, let's change this color over to blue here. And if a line is perpendicular, that would mean we have, well, different slopes I was starting to write, but not just different slopes. Our slopes are opposite reciprocals. Opposite reciprocals, meaning that we are going to flip the fraction and change the sign. So I'll show you through this example, whichever one this is. So let's first, both of these are dealing with slope, which actually opposite reciprocal slopes. Let me finish that sentence there. But both of these are dealing with slope. We're given 2 points for these lines, so let's find the slope. So first we'll do x1, y1, x2, y2 for those. So we have a 1 minus 10 over 2 minus 10. So I'm just going to say this is for line t right here, since that's what line t is saying. So 1 minus 10 is a negative 9. 2 minus 10 is a negative 8. So our negatives cancel, and this looks to be a just 9 over 8, the slope of our line t. The slope of line u is 1 minus 10 over 1 minus 9. So negative 9 over a negative 8 again, which is just 9 over 8. So it looks like this slope and this slope are the same. And if they're the same slope, that means these two lines are going to be parallel. So now moving on to 21, line A passes through the points 1, 3 and 6, 6. If line B is parallel to line A, what is the slope of line B? So from the last problem, we can recall here that parallel means they have the same slope. We're not given the slope, but we are given 2 points. So we're going to use our slope formula of y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 and solve. So let's label x1, y1, x2, y2. So 6 minus 3 over 6 minus 1 is 3 over 5. And if line B, so let me label this as A, if line B is parallel to line A, and this is the slope, 3 over 5 of line A, that means the slope of line B also has to be 3 over 5. So 3 over 5 is our answer. And then just to give an example of what a perpendicular slope would be, say if number 21 was asking, okay, what is the slope of, so let's say like line C is perpendicular to line A. What is the slope of line C? Right? This is just me adding on to question number 21. So before I was asking parallel, and now I'm saying perpendicular. So opposite reciprocal. We would have to figure out opposite reciprocal of the slope of line A, which our slope of line A is 3 over 5. Slope of line C, what we need to do is flip this fraction, so 5 over 3, and then make it negative. Specifically, not just negative, but we just need to make it the opposite sign of this one. So if this is a positive 3 over 5, that now means that our perpendicular line would be a negative 5 over 3. So they're complete opposites of each other. See? We flip fraction, change the sign. So that is what this little part 2 of question 21 here is. So let's scroll down to 22. The equation for line J can be written as y equals negative 5 over 7x minus 10. Line K, which is parallel to line J, includes the point negative 9, 5. What is the equation of line K? So there's a lot of information here. First off, I see the word parallel. This means same slope. So I know that in our new form, which it specifically asks us to write it in the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, we know that the slope of our new line is going to be identical because these lines are parallel according to the problem. So we're going to keep this negative 5 over 7x here, or not specifically the x, but just the negative 5 over 7 is exactly the same. But then we're just given a point. We are not given a y-intercept. So what we do is we plug in to our point slope form. Let me fix that. Don't want to move everything around here. There we go. M times x minus x1. So y minus 5 is equal to negative 5 over 7 times x plus 9. And I'm getting this 5 and 9 from this point up here that I've just circled a little bit more. So let's solve. Let's bring down that y minus 5 and do negative 5 over 7 times x, which is negative 5 sevenths x. And then we're going to do negative 5 over 7 times a 9. So let's do that real quick. So that will work itself out to putting this in a fraction still, we're going to do a minus 45 over 7. So, simplifying even more, we're going to add 5 to both sides and get y is equal to negative 5 over 7x, and then 45 over 7, a negative 45 over 7, excuse me, plus 5 is going to be equal to a negative 10 over 7. So that right there is the answer to 22. Match each correlation coefficient to the appropriate scatter plot. The line in each scatter plot is the least squares regression line. So we have two options. R equals negative 0.4 and R equals negative 9. So both of these are negative, which when the correlation coefficient, which is our letter R here, is negative, that means our graph is trending downwards. So we see that both of them are like that. And then how we tell which one is 0.4 versus 0.9, we have that nifty chart that was in our notes from earlier that I will attempt to redraw at least a little bit. There we go. And basically, the closer we get to -1 or +1, the stronger our correlation is, meaning our dots are closer together. So this is a strong negative correlation, and this is a strong positive correlation. And then this is no, none, or specifically association. So let's see, this one is more scattered about. So which one is closer to 0? That is going to be our negative 0.4. So R is equal to negative 0.4. Which means this one, the tighter one, is R is equal to negative 0.9. So the closer it is to 0, the more scattered apart, and the closer it is to -1 or +1, the closer it is together, the stronger that correlation coefficient will be. So now, based off of this scatter plot, which is a better prediction for x when y is equal to 2? So when y is equal to 2, that's right there. So what's a good prediction of x? Would 0 be better? Which means that our dot would be right there. Or would 8 be better? Over here. So we're just picking which one fits in better with this trend line here. Or not trend line, we haven't drawn a trend line, but the trend of the scatter plot. And that would be 0. 0 is a much better fit for this scatter plot than 8 would be. And then 25, each of these relationships reflects a correlation. All right, so which relationship most likely reflects both correlation and causation? So correlation means the two of these typically go together. So like our scatter plots above. But causation means one directly affects the other. So let's read all three of these. When people play the piano more often, their hands become more flexible. When people sing in public more often, they speak in public more often. And when people draw pictures more often, they paint more often. So looking at these three, we have when people play the piano more often, their hands become more flexible. Playing the piano requires a lot of hand movements, so over time, your hands should become more flexible. So this one, the two of these are directly related to each other. So there is causation here. So that one would be the answer, but let me explain why the other two are not. So when people sing in public more often, they speak in public more often. Maybe that the more you sing in front of a crowd, you might also talk in front of a crowd more, but just because someone sings in public more often does not directly mean that they're also going to be speaking in public more often. They might be related, but they don't directly affect one another. Similar to when people draw more pictures more often, they paint more often. Maybe because they are more artistic, they might paint more often statistically, but just because someone's drawing a lot doesn't mean they actually paint a lot either. So that explains why these two are not causation. But again, all three of them do represent correlation, meaning they all kind of make sense together. So that wraps up midterm review part B. I hope this was helpful, and once again, good luck studying for this midterm and all of the other ones. Thanks, guys.